So, Facebook actually sent me a Quest 2 to review. Yeah, I'm surprised too. But here's everything in the box, my real impressions, and some early thoughts on the entire headset, both good and bad. I've been using it almost non-stop since I opened the box, and I've got some interesting things to say, but I'm not going to keep you waiting. This is the Quest 2 in my hands for the first time. So I want to be clear, this is not a full review. I've only had the headset here to test for the past day or so, and while I have been using it non-stop, this is going to be my initial thoughts on everything the headset has to offer, from comfort to tracking and clarity. And I have a lot of thoughts, both good and bad. Later on, I will be doing a way more in-depth full review on the headset once I have more usage time, so make sure you're subscribed for that. But for today, this is the Oculus Quest 2. The brand new shiny headset from Facebook or Oculus, or it doesn't matter. It's Facebook's Oculus Quest 2 essentially. Especially considering you'll have to log into Facebook to use this headset and access your content, which is why you'll probably want to make sure you don't lose that password, and Dashlane, this video sponsor, can help make sure that doesn't happen. But more on that at the end of the video. Man, that was a pretty decent segue. But let's talk about the Quest 2. Some pretty minimal packaging, which I'm down for. Smaller packaging is better on your wallet and the environment, and in the box you get the headset, 2 controllers, and a charging cable and brick, as well as a set of paperwork, and that's about it. My first initial thought is that Facebook really missed out on a great opportunity here for PC VR by not including a cable that is long enough or capable of Oculus Link in the box as the charger. In fact, the charging cable is so short, it's almost like it was on purpose to make sure you don't use this cable for Oculus Link. But maybe it's just cost savings. But now onto the headset and controllers. These are the biggest Oculus controllers ever made. This is them next to the other 2 touch controllers. Needless to say, if the previous controllers felt a little small in your hands, then this will not be a problem here. I do worry though, if you're someone with really small hands, that these controllers may feel a little big to you, but the design is in a way that you can just slide up a little. So yeah, they're a little big. The build quality is very similar to the Quest and Rift S controllers, but the actual design is more similar to the original Oculus Rift controller, which I love. The build quality isn't particularly impressive, but it's also not bad. It seems robust enough. All of the buttons feel responsive, the triggers aren't squeaking, and the analog sticks click in all directions. The controllers take 1 AA battery each, and when looking at the battery compartment, I noticed something pretty great that I know a lot of people complained about with the previous touch controllers. The battery disconnection issues seem to have been remedied here by using a cylinder and a stiffer spring that really hold the battery in place instead of just a spring, which is awesome, but that isn't to say that everything is great. For some reason, even though these controllers are larger and have the great design of the old Rift, they just feel less ergonomic. I can't exactly put my finger on it, but the previous 2 controllers really nestled in your hand, and the new controllers just feel like you're really holding something, kind of reminiscent to holding Vive ones almost. Weird complaint, I know, but it just doesn't feel quite as comfy and nestled, but it could just be because I'm getting used to these since I've used the other 2 variants so much. But now onto the headset, and the first thing I noticed is, holy cow, while the controllers have grown, this headset has shrunk because this thing is tiny. I mean, here it is next to the Quest, and it really does have a noticeably smaller footprint. This is especially noticeable when you compare it to other headsets. This is the Vive Cosmos Elite and Index for size comparison, so yeah, it's really small. The build quality of the actual headset is solid enough. I mean, it's just a bunch of plastic, but nothing rattles and it feels good to hold, even though it is really light. And that's another thing, it's really light. The Valve Index weighs around 800 grams, the Oculus Quest weighs around 570 grams, and the Quest 2 weighs around 500 grams. Gone from the original Quest is the rubber head strap design, and this head strap is an elastic band style, for better or worse, and comfort. So I'm sure you all are wondering if this headset is comfortable. And I gotta be honest, putting it on for the first time, I was a little shocked that it's actually not that bad. The thing here is that everyone's head is different, and I really didn't find it uncomfortable. At least that was at first. About an hour in of usage, and I was getting hot spots mainly on the back of my head and around my ears area, as well as a little bit on my cheeks. Using the new VR cover did help quite a bit and fix some of the light leak, which is pretty large on the Quest 2 as well, but it doesn't fix everything, and the hot spots didn't necessarily go away. Mainly the ones on my my ear. The straps started cutting into my ears, so I instead just put the straps over my ears, and while it looks goofy and feels goofy, it did make the experience more pleasant, and it's probably what you're gonna wanna do. Oculus is launching 2 other head straps with the Quest 2, the Elite Strap and Elite Battery Strap, which I will be reviewing extensively in the next couple weeks. But for the 8 or so hours I used for the past day, I used just the main strap on purpose, and compared to the Quest, it is an improvement. But that isn't really saying much, since the Quest was pretty uncomfortable. However, this is my strap after 1 day of use. This thing is a dirt magnet. Just from normal usage in handling the headset, it's already getting dirty and grimy. I can imagine this strap after a year of usage will be filthy, which may be enough of an incentive for you to go out and spend $50 on the Elite Strap anyways. Now the audio, it's pretty much the same garbage that's on the original Quest. I mean, it plays sounds, but don't expect much more. The bass is practically non-existent, it doesn't get very loud, and the mids as well as highs are washed out. If you want to be immersed or actually hear your Beat Saber music with any bit of impact, you're going to need headphones here. The head strap speakers are a decent default for sharing the headset and keeping the footprint low, or if you just want to hear your surroundings, but for personal usage, the audio is just as disappointing as the Quest was. And if you want to make a really good argument for the Index or Reverb G2 over the Quest 2, then audio's probably it. Visuals, on the other hand, definitely have me really impressed. The Quest 2 uses a single LCD panel giving a resolution of 1832 by 1920 per eye, which is a massive bump over the 1440 by 1600 on the Quest. The display definitely doesn't have as deep of blacks as the Quest since it's an LCD panel instead of an OLED, but the jump in clarity and lack of screen door effect make up for it in my opinion. If you're coming from a Quest or a Vive or a Rift, this headset will be a massive improvement. If you're Index gang, however, you'll feel pretty at home. In a lot of ways, these displays mixed with the lenses that Oculus chose have a very Index feel, albeit with a lower refresh rate of course. Just about every game looks great like you'd expect. It's nothing earth-shattering like the Reverb G2, but it's definitely on par if not slightly better than the Index. The sweet spot is pretty large and God rays haven't been much of an issue, but I'll have to play more games in different environments to really test that. Also, in terms of field of view on the Quest 2, it's nothing impressive. The FOV is pretty similar to the original Quest at around 110 degrees. You'll still see the black binocular effect around the displays, so don't expect anything spectacular here or a massive upgrade, but it doesn't look bad. However, I do have kind of an issue with the Quest 2's FOV, displays, and IPD adjustment as a whole. And here's where I actually get into the IPD adjustment. The Quest 2's display is a single panel, which means it's cheaper, but it's less versatile for people compared to the Quest dual displays. Well, this headset uses a mixture of software and manual IPD adjustment, and by physically moving the lens box, you have 3 settings to choose from, giving you the option between 58mm, 63mm, and 68mm, which does hit the average range of human beings to be fair. But if you're in the middle of any of them, then you'll just have to pick your closest, and that's where I'm at personally. I'm somewhere between the second and third settings, so I just leave it on the third. And while it's not bothering me, things are clear, and it does seem pretty robust, like it won't break, I do wish it had an adjustment wheel to adjust the IPD to a fine tune. On the software side, you can actually see the displays adjusting, so the displays are really just blank where the lenses aren't viewing. And unfortunately, on the third setting, which is the one I use, the sides of the displays are squared off instead of round, affecting my FOV to be even more narrow than it needs to be, and it's kind of distracting. This seems like something that can be fixed later in a software update, but I'm not sure if it ever will, and it's something that I noticed and I definitely didn't like. Now, tracking. Well, there's this rumor going around that the Quest 2 tracking is somehow significantly worse than the Quest and Rift S, and personally, I didn't see that at all. In fact, the tracking was great. I'm no Beat Saber god, but here's me playing Beat Saber. So needless to say, I didn't find the tracking to be any worse than what the Quest already offers. Now, performance. Menu navigation is super smooth, games feel pretty great, and frame rates are really consistent. VR chat, for example, has always had issues on the Quest, and coming from someone that spends a lot of time in VR chat on PC VR, this is the most desktop-like experience I have ever had in VR chat with a non-PC headset. My frame rate was almost double that of the Quest. Beat Saber felt really responsive, especially especially compared to the Quest version. And I'm not kidding when overall it's just the most PC VR-like experience I've ever had on a non-PC VR headset. And it makes sense. The specs here are a Snapdragon XR2 and you've got more RAM than the Quest, and really it's just a cutting-edge headset. And the hardware really shows its colors when you play games made for the Quest's weaker hardware. All in all, actually using the headset and the playing experience was really great, and the games feel amazing. All of the lag and jitter and jank of the Quest is basically absent. It feels like a way better package. However, that XR2 requires quite a bit of juice, and battery life, well, I went through 4 full charge cycles and averaged about 2 hours and 18 minutes from full charge to dead. Not very good, but I understand the sacrifice here. Do you want to play games comfortably with a light headset for 2 hours on one charge, or play for 1 hour and have to get off because the Quest 2 has a bigger battery and it's even more uncomfortable than it already is? I do wish that the battery life was better than 2 hours because that just flies by whenever you're playing games, but battery banks and battery head straps are an option, and it's pretty easy to extend that battery life. My impressions here are pretty positive for the first day of use, but the device is definitely not perfect. However, for $300, I'm kind of flabbergasted that this headset even exists. For the price, it is just so good, and it really gives something like the Index, Rift S, Vive, and Cosmos a run for their money in so many ways. And I do have to spend a lot more time with the headset, as these are just my initial impressions and things that I noticed right off the bat. And of course, my first 24 hours with the Quest 2 has been phenomenal, but I'm curious to see if I run into any issues, especially when I use the headset for more intensive things like Link for PC VR play, or virtual desktop, or sideloading applications. So far, it really has been a headset of compromises, but with the compromises made in most of the right places, except for one. By far, the worst part of using this headset was during the setup and being forced to log in using Facebook, not my Oculus account, which you should all know is an absolute requirement here if you buy a Quest 2. And while it's a badass headset for an absolute killer price, the real cost here is likely between the terms of service agreement, I'm sure. And is it an Index killer or a Reverb G2 killer? Is this the best headset you can possibly buy right now? I don't know, but it kind of comes scarily close, especially whenever you're talking about just an all-around good headset. But like I said, I'm gonna spend the next week or 2 weeks with the headset, using it as much as possible in as many ways as possible to get a real idea of what long-term usage with the Quest 2 is like, and if any large issues pop up. If you have any questions or things that you'd like for me to cover in my full review, leave it in the comment section below and I'll try and get to them. Otherwise, I will be streaming on Twitch basically right after this video, so come on by and ask whatever questions you'd like about the Quest 2 and I'll be happy to answer them. But I do want to thank the sponsor for this video, Dashlane. What if there was a service that made your life easier by filling in passwords for you across all of your devices, allowing you to make far more complex passwords so that your own personal security is far enhanced? Well, that is a thing, and it's called Dashlane. Dashlane can be your one-stop shop for your digital identity by managing all of your passwords so that you don't have to keep track of each one. Personal info and financials, making your digital life safe and more secure. Dashlane works across all devices, including Apple products, PCs, Android, Safari, and Chrome, you name it. Dashlane also has secure autofill features that work for your personal information and credit cards, saving you time when shopping online, a VPN to prevent prying eyes from tracking and helping you access content anywhere, plus dark web monitoring to see if your information is being bought and sold illegally. To give it a try for free on your first device, go to dashlane.com/ThrillSeeker and use my promo code ThrillSeeker to get 50% if you want to upgrade to premium. Otherwise, it's free, so give it a shot. And thank you to my Patreon supporters, especially my Omegas like Benji, Fusion Oak, HCG Randon, Ronzarelli, That Brock Guy, Token Engineer, Tristan Sloan, True Killa, Very Evil Shadow, Insomniac, and I'm a Cute Femboy. I couldn't do any of this without you. Don't forget to like this video if you loved it, subscribe if you want more of this, and hit that freaking bell if you just can't live without it. Much love, Thrill out.